friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Allison, and today I'm sharing more inspiration using the July Spellbinders Small Die of the Month Club. So we're just going to jump right in here. I have an A2 piece of paper that I have cut that tree outline out of, and I'm just going to use that scrap from the middle to die cut my flowers. And this month the club is called the Layered Poinsettia Tree. And so I'm just going to cut these out. And by the way, you're going to ask yourself, why does she have a pink tree? Because that's not what the final card looks like. And you're right. Here I have cut this detail piece out of vellum. So I'm just showing you that. And I have a white card base. And the intention was to make a shaker card. So that was why I had a pink piece of paper. My initial intention was to have pink on the outside. Now we're going to use distress mica flakes and some distress rock candy glitter today. But we're going to step it up a notch. We are going to color it. And yes, I'm holding a fork. You'll see why in a minute. I'm going to color it with alcohol ink. So right now I'm kind of deciding which colors. I know I want to use that stream, and I eventually decide on that dark green Everglades and the stream. So here I've put each of those items in a little plastic cup. And here's the stream alcohol ink. And I am going to color the rock candy glitter first. So I'm just pouring some drops in. And by the way, this is the first time I've ever done this. I've never done this before, but I've seen Tim Holtz do it. So I wasn't sure how many drops of alcohol ink to put in there. But I'm just doing what he said to do, and I'm just starting to mix it up. And I'm not going to show you the minute and a half that I was mixing because I don't want anybody to get sick from all the stirring. So here it is towards the end of that. I would say it was about a minute and a half. And you'll see how it blended really nice. And so Tim suggested pouring it on a paper towel to let it dry. But I live in Colorado. It was already pretty dry. You can see I had just poured it on the paper towel, and it's looking pretty dry. But it obviously will depend on the humidity where you live. So here is the Everglades alcohol ink, and I'm going to pour some into the mica flakes. And I didn't pour as much in to this as I did the other color. And you'll see I'll start mixing it up. I do eventually add a few more drops. I will say that mixing up the mica flakes was not as smooth to me as mixing up the rock candy glitter. The glitter was super easy. I feel like there were maybe more variation in color with the mica flakes, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, that's actually kind of a cool thing. But I do feel like there were some dark spots that I never really got rid of. But for the most part, you'll see when I spread it out on the paper towel that it all mixed in pretty well. So the cool thing about when you color both of these, the flakes and the glitter, they still are kind of translucent. It's hard to show that. And here you see me, I'm pouring it back into this little plastic cup. And even though I have a pretty textured paper towel, I get most of it off. So you see a pretty clean paper towel. So most of it is now in that little cup, and I have a little top for it. You can use a glass jar, but this is a great way to spend an afternoon when you're not feeling creative. Just color up some glitter and put it into bottles for later use. As well as the mica flakes. I love using mica flakes for shakers. Just clear. I've never colored my own, but now I'm going to want to do that all the time. So now here's my white card base. I decided with all that pretty blue and green glittery bits, I wanted to use white. And I had already put a piece of acetate over the opening to start creating my shaker. And I'm using this Altenew foam tape. Now, because the mica flakes and the glitter are not big shaker bits, I'm only using one layer of foam. And that's what I really love about the mica flakes. And using glitter is you don't really need a thick shaker. Right now I had finished putting all the foam tape on the card, and now I'm taking an anti-static powder tool. This is just an old one I have. And just wiping the edges of that tape so that none of the shaker bits get stuck on it. And I'm even wiping down the front of the card base as well. And so now I am pouring in my little shaker bits. And, you know, this is always the part where you're not sure if you're putting in too much or not enough. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So now that I've got everything in there, I'm going to add a little bit more. And then I will start taking all the release tape off very carefully, because these are little bits, and if you take the tape off forcefully, it's going to fling stuff everywhere. So I'm going to use my craft pick, and I'm going to start taking off kind of the smallest pieces first. I have a lot of little small pieces of foam tape all the way around, just in little parts of this shaker, because I wanted to make sure there were no escape hatches for any of the shaker bits to find their way out. So I've never had a problem with that, but I did have a card recently where I apparently left an escape hatch. So I was just being very careful with this card. And once we're done peeling off the release tape, I can just put the card base right on top. So this is the front of the card base. I'm going to flip it over and lay it right onto the shaker panel. So normally my shaker panels aren't the size of an A2 card base, but because that tree outline was so large, I really needed to keep the panel A2 sized. So here I'm just pressing it down, and here's your first glimpse of the shaker. Don't worry, you'll see more later. So now remember I had cut flowers out of pink cardstock earlier. I decided I wanted my poinsettias to be orange, and because I love orange and turquoise together. So I am now gluing down the bottom layer of the poinsettia all the way to this vellum base. I'm just calling it a base. And for the second layer, I'm just going to glue it in the middle. Normally, I would glue both pieces just in the middle for dimension, but because this is vellum and I have to glue the flowers down to the shaker card behind the vellum, I really just wanted that bottom layer to be solid so that I could put more glue behind those flowers and you wouldn't see it. If I didn't connect the entire flower, you may have seen it from the side, seen glue from the sides. So, by the way, I have another video earlier in the month where I shared this small die of the month. So I'm kind of breezing through the assembly in this video. I will have a link to that other video where you can see more of the assembly. But there you see pink flowers, that dark pink base. That actually is the pink flower that I cut out at the beginning. And these little centers of the flower I cut out at the beginning. I thought they looked good with the orange, but I'm just coming in with some orange distress ink just to kind of ink up the sides of that center, just to kind of marry the two colors together. But I love orange and pink together. So I think it ended up looking really good. And this is the same ink that I also ink blended the bottom layer of my flowers. So my orange flowers. It was one color of orange paper, and for the bottom layer I just used that, I think it was Crackling Campfire Distress ink, to just add some shading. And now you see me, I had just added the centers to my flowers, and now I'm coming in with these berries. So that pink paper that I used at the beginning all was not lost. I definitely got use out of it. And I'm just going to finish the berries on this piece and move on to the next part. So now it's time to glue all of this down. And remember, before I had said I'm going to put glue behind these solid flowers. And that's the only part I'm going to put glue under. All the vellum leaves and everything are going to remain loose, and it creates dimension. And, well, obviously you don't want to put glue under the vellum anyway, because you would see the glue. But regardless, I love the dimension of leaving those leaves loose. So I'm just gluing everything down to the acetate that is covering the shaker. And I am loving how this is coming together. And the vellum, when it's over this kind of turquoisey green background, it kind of takes on that color. But it's still translucent enough to see the color through it. So I really love how it turned out. So for a sentiment, this is the sentiment that comes with the small die. It's this little joy banner. So that's what came with the kit. This is the joy word that comes with the large die of the month kit, and I was thinking of using that. It kind of gets lost in the tree, although I could have maybe cut it out in white. That probably would have looked nice. But I found this hot foiled sentiment in my stash. This is from the Joyful Christmas Sentiments hot foil plate and die set, and I thought it kind of looks cool, as it kind of makes it look like the trunk of the tree. And I already had it foiled. It was in my stash, so that kind of satisfied the lazy person in me. So I decided to, you can see I had already glued it down, and it was gold foil, which matched the gold kind of glittery, not glittery, shiny star that I had cut out. So I was pretty happy with how this looked. And now I'm coming in with my shimmer pen, and I'm just adding some shimmer to those berries and the little center to the flowers. And at that point, I thought I was all done. But if you've been watching my videos, you know me. Yep. I decided to hot foil the sentiment onto this kind of green turquoise paper with white foil. And I think it just makes such a big difference. It looks more like a trunk, right? So, and by the way, here is the other card that I had made earlier this month. And these two cards could not look more different, right? But I love them both. In fact, I don't know which one I love more now. I will link to the video for that other card below. So here is the shaker. I'm going to let you listen to it. And there's the final card. I'm absolutely in love with how this turned out. And by the way, there is a blog hop today. I will have a link to my blog, but we are sharing inspiration from all the clubs this month for Spellbinders. And so head over to my blog. 3 lucky winners will win a $25 gift card to Spellbinders. So head on over to the blog for all the details. Thank you so much for visiting me today. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.